Hi, welcome to Posca Club. Today we're going to draw a skull with like a dripping emoji all over the top of it. So you're not going to need too many colours here, and both the emoji and the skull are pretty simple to draw as well. Okay, so these are the colours that I'm going to use. So see if you can grab something similar to this. For the actual emoji, I'm going to do, the main colour of the emoji is just going to be yellow, but then I'm also going to bring in an ochre just to put in some shadows, and likewise the white pen there just to bring in some highlights as well. So if you haven't got those colours, it doesn't matter, you can go greens, blues, whatever you want. Just a medium tone, a light tone, and then a white, medium tone, a dark tone, which is this ochre, and then a white for the highlights. Moving over to the other side, in the skull, I'm just going to use a little tiny bit of grey for a little tiny bit of shading in the skull. Nothing too much, just to hopefully give it a little bit of shape. And then a black pen as well. I'm using a 3M black pen. Also using a 3M in my grey as well, because I want to just put a few smaller details in without having to cut in and use the white. I want to use the paper, the white of the paper, quite a lot to draw the skull. So again, it's another one of those like simple techniques for drawing something quite big, but not having to spend too much time with it, because we're only actually going to colour in half of the character, if you know what I mean. Okay, process we're going to follow then is we're going to just draw a basic half of the emoji first, then we're going to draw the skull in, then we're going to start colouring in, but then we're going to add some extra little drips and weird bits to our character as well. So plenty of opportunity to really explore this and take it a little bit further. Let's start off with a yellow. I'm using ochre, and yeah, what we'll do, I'm just going to keep it nice and simple. You can use a compass or a plate or something if you want to get a perfect circle, but I think they're kind of overrated. So I'm just going to put a little line down the middle, like about there, and then a half circle over one side, about there. That's not too bad. Something like that will do us nicely. That is going to help with the, well, that is one half of the emoji, to be fair. Okay, you ready now? Go and grab your, sorry, not your black, your grey pen. What we're going to do now is we're going to add this skull using the grey pen. Where that's going to look really cool is that when we put the black lines on afterwards, there'll be little bits of grey kind of showing up underneath the black line, which will just give it a little bit of shape. Okay, so let's go and do this then. I'll zoom in a little bit. Now you've seen the size of it. This is an A5 sketch, an A4 sketchbook, so quite big. You see the size of it, half with a circle, and then let's get closer in. Maybe not that close. There we go. Closer in so we can do the other side. Okay, you ready for this then? So first thing we're going to do, let's keep it simple. Let's start at the bottom about here. Let's go and put in some teeth. So you just want 3 bouncy lines. 1, 2, 3, like that. And then join those at the bottom together, and there's our teeth. Up top here, let's just go and whack in an eyeball, so I reckon about here. See how it's a little bit square, so it's not particularly a round one. A little bit square kind of works out quite nicely for me. Any kind of wonky shape would do. These little bends, what they do is they give you something to work with when you come in to flick off the lines when we put the black lines on later. Got that? Let's, next stage is a cheekbone. So just out of here, what we're going to do is come down the side of the eye socket, throw in a little bucket shape for a cheekbone, and then go across the underneath of the eye socket, like this. Look. So down the side, throw in a little cheekbone, like a bucket shape, and then come underneath the eye socket as well. Got that? Okay. What we'll do now is we'll just finish off the rest of the skull. So we're going to come from the top here, tuck it into below, just on the top of the cheekbone there. So go from about there, let's go to about there, and it's quite round. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit wonkier than that. That'll be okay. I'm not doing a bottom jaw on my character, on my skull as well. I'm going to keep it nice and simple. So all we're going to do here is we're going to just draw a little line that just kind of curves in to the top, to the tooth on the right hand side there, the top of the right hand tooth. Little curve around there, then a little line across, just to kind of join it all together. Okay. fact, let's go and put in, take this curve here, let's go and put that in again, just there. That's going to give our skull a much more 3D kind of look. Awesome. Right, you got that in? We're just going to colour in the emoji with basic colours first. We'll add some drips and mess it up a little bit later. But for the time being, let's just go and whack in a bit of a drop shadow. So go and grab that ochre again, and all we're going to do is just from this side here, we're just going to take a line going across from there. Look, so smooth it out. And then that becomes our shadow. So go and whack that in. Don't worry too much about, you know, I've just spent a little bit of time getting that just right, but don't worry too much about that because we will be adding some drips on that later. So it doesn't matter if it's not completely neat down there. Top tip as well is if you want your emoji to look quite flat but still kind of have a little tiny bevel to it, then just do a small little shadow down the bottom. If you want to make yours look like more like a dome, like it's rounder, then just bring that shadow line a little bit higher up. Okay, let's go and put some shadows in on the other side. So this is where we're going to grab that grey pen again and just throw in a few little shadows. Definitely one of the main shadows is this one on the inner eye, because it's kind of like inside the skull but not all the way inside the skull. We're going to go grey with that. This bit here, that will go black eventually because that is completely inside the skull. Let's go and add in a few more shadows. So these are the other places we're going to see a shadow. So watch this. We're going to see a shadow from here. Yeah, so just on the top there and on the left hand side of that eye socket, that's where we'll see a bit of a shadow. Let's keep on going. Let's add in a little shadow on the right hand side here. Let's just bring that into about there, just as it tucks behind that cheekbone. Again, just a nice little shadow in there. Same for underneath this cheekbone. Let's bring it from here, look, little line across. Anywhere you think is going to have a shadow because of the shape of it, or because of a shadow being cast on it, that kind of thing. Go and throw one in. One last set of shadows. Let's go and put a little bit in there. Look, I think that would be a shadow, and then just thicken out the right hand side of each tooth. Like that. I think that'll do. It's pretty nice. Right, let's get over to the other side again. This time we're going to just grab our yellow and we're just going to colour the rest of this in yellow. Again, remember, we're going to add more drips and messy bits in there. Now, one of the reasons I'm using yellow is it does have a tendency to not be particularly opaque. So when you're using your yellow, make sure you spend a lot of time priming it. So just pressing the nib down. Make sure you've shaken your pen a lot. You might have to give it 2 coats. It's just the nature of the yellow and white when you're using that. So yeah, if yours isn't going straight over this ochre, don't panic. You might need to give it 2 coats. Best way of giving it 2 coats is always remember, let the first coat dry, then come back with the second coat. Okay. A little bit of cutting in as well. So let's go over the top of that line, and just as we get to this bit, just cut in just there. Again, over the top of that ochre line, making that ochre disappear. Just check out that little bit there, look. The way this shadow just disappears into nothing, into that real tight, sharp point. That's what we're after. Okay. Let's go and throw some colour on. In fact, what I'll do here is, let's save ourselves a little bit of time so we don't have to colour it in. Let's just go and put in a circle there, because eventually that's going to be black. It doesn't matter if we colour the whole thing in yellow and then put the circle in over the top, but it just means that's one less section we have to bother about colouring in. So let's go and throw some colour on. Now don't forget, when you're colouring in with Posca pens, a nice light touch, don't press too hard. The lighter you press, the more chance you have of getting a nice flat surface. If you press harder, you're just going to end up starting to get some ridges in there. I know it's tempting because usually with pens, the harder you press, the more ink lays down, but with Posca pens, because they're paint, you barely need to touch it. A nice gentle touch will get you a much flatter surface. A lot of people ask me what I do to make my artwork look like it's printed, and that's all I do. Just a nice soft touch. Obviously leave it to dry. Go over it again with a second coat. You can see where I just did that little line there, and this a little bit of this ochre is showing through. Same up here, a little bit of that ochre is showing through. It's no biggie, don't get too stressed about that. When we put in a second coat of yellow, we can make little bits like that disappear quite easily. Awesome, you got that? We're already onto our outlining stage. It's really quick, this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to outline the skull whilst this side is drying. We're going to put some outlines on the skull, and then we're going to come back onto here, add some more little drips on there. Okay, so let's go and grab that 3M in black, and let's just go and throw a few little outlines on this skull. We'll start off with the eye socket. So do you remember this? We put two shadows. One is on the inside. See, that is just on the inside to make it look like a hole, and then we put this other shadow just on the outside of the hole. So just be mindful where you're putting this line in, look, because we're going to go around that bit. So you see how we're leaving one shadow on the outside of that line, one shadow on the inside of that line. I am going to double line it. Let's bring this line across, or down I should say, into there, and then we can colour this. The back of the eye socket, let's just colour that in black. I'm colouring it in black because I'm keeping this a nice, simple, quick and easy drawing. What I like about this particular style of tutorial is that if you want, it's nice and quick and easy. If you want, there's lots of opportunity to add stuff to it. And one of those things you can add to it is an eyeball in there. So yeah, if you don't want to put in some, just colour it in black to keep it simple, then you can put other stuff in there. And it doesn't have to be an eyeball, it can be a worm, it can be anything. Just go and whack something in there. Awesome, that's looking good. Let's go and just put a couple more little outlines in before we go back onto our drippage area. The other bit I want us to do is a little nose hole and then go around the teeth. We'll finish off the top of the skull a little bit later, but a little nose hole, like half a heart. So watch this, just curling round up like that. Let's colour that in. And then let's go around those teeth. Now again with the teeth, just remember as we go around the teeth, we're mainly going to be going over the grey line, but on the right hand side of the tooth we need to make sure the shadow stays inside. There you go. And as you double line this, you can give this tooth a little bit more shape. Let's do the next one. So look at how I'm just curving down the bottom there. So those teeth don't look, you know, that straight line that we did across there earlier doesn't look like a straight line anymore. This tooth, look, we can make it look like it's just going behind now. There we go. Any lines, anywhere where you're putting in a shadow, you can go a little bit thicker with those lines. So you see the right hand side of each tooth. That line is a bit thicker than the left hand side. That's mainly because there's a shadow there. And that's how we draw shadows, by thickening out lines. Look at that. Awesome. Right, that's good enough for now. Let's go quickly whip back over to the other side. I'm just going to quickly get that and that because I know there's a few people that don't like little spots missing. Yeah, let's go and add some drips. to this side. So I'm just going to keep it again nice and simple. Let me just move down a little bit. Just going to add a few little drips down the bottom, maybe a little bit across the top of the skull as well. So just over here, look, let's go and do this. Look at that, nice little drip. See how it kind of stretches out, goes a little bit skinny in the middle just there, nice and fat across the end. Curve it round so it joins in really naturally. When we put the black outline in, we can tidy that up a lot as well. Let's go and put a small one in like that, and then let's go and whack a big one in down here with a smaller one next to it. See how we're keeping them like different distances apart, different lengths as well. Lovely stuff. Go and grab your yellow pen. What we're going to do is just going to move across the skull a little bit across the top there, and we're just going to add some more drips up the top. So once you've done those down the bottom, let's get up the top. Look, watch this. What we're going to do is just go across here and add a little drip. You see what I mean about, look at that grey line still showing through. Really difficult to get your pens to look particularly opaque, but it's all about just letting it dry, giving it another coat. So I'm just going to give that bit another coat. This bit down here as well, just slowly building up those coats. It's putting it, look, watch this, little drip sticking out there. See that little bump? Going to throw that in as well. Okay, I think that'll do. This little drip, yeah, I think that kind of works for me. Do you want to put a little drip in the eye? You can put one in the eye as well. Should we do that? Again, when we colour the rest of that eye socket in black, that'll look really nice. And yeah, every now and then, just as soon as you can see it's dry, get a wet pen, just go and give those bits another coat. Make sure your nib is always wet, because if your nib is just a little bit dry, what it's going to do is it's going to start scraping off the soft paint, and that's the last thing we want. At the top there, I'm just going to leave that bit to dry. We'll see as the session progresses how much of that we can get rid of, okay? Okay, right, let's go and grab your black pen again. Let's carry on with a little bit more outlining over on this side. So first thing we'll do is just a little bit around here, just going over that line, making sure that shadow is on the inside. Double lining it, nice and wonky. Let's go around the cheekbone. Again, making sure the shadow is on the inside, so we're going to start it there. If you can't flick off at the top here, just do like little dots and dashes and then bring that line out. Like that. Double line it, just give it a wonkiness to it. How's that looking? That'll do. Join it all up together here. Again, keeping the shadow on the inside there. One last line across the top of the skull. And then what we'll do is we'll do a little bit of work around the teeth. Now again, with this line up here, just get on the outside edge of it. Double line it. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit wonky. Strong intersection down there. So intersections, just in case I haven't mentioned that for a while, just in this little bit here, you see where two lines join each other in like a T-junction. Just there, that's an intersection. It's usually where the shadows live, so I usually go a little bit thicker with the lines in there. So you've got a thick off there, and you've got a flick off there. Okay, talking of flick offs, let's do some double-ended flick offs. So this is just around the top of the teeth, look. Just a little flick off. Again, if you struggle with flick offs, just try and do some little dots and dashes. Let's do some little flick offs around the eyes as well. Watch this, look, just take it a little bit further out on the edge there. Little crease. What about the top? Let's just do a little crease there. Little tiny one. Stays inside the shadow there. What about one over there? This is the good thing. When you draw your eyes like in a 50p piece kind of style like that, any kind of natural bend in the line, that's when you can do a little flick off. And those little flick offs are what gives makes everything just look a little bit more 3D. Okay, let's just go and put in a little line here, look. Little flick off. Just coming across the top of that nose, make it look like the nose is just poking out a little bit more. Finish off our black lines over on this side with a few lines going across. Look, now, as we do these lines going across, they want to be close together at the top, close together at the bottom, far apart in the middle. Yeah, but not quite as easy as that. Try and do it so they're very, very graduated. So start at the top and they'll be quite close together, and you're just going to slowly start moving them further and further apart, and then when you get to the bottom again, start bringing them closer together like that. Awesome. Okay, let's go and put some black outlines round on the other side now. So on the other side, let's start off with that big line going all the way across the top. I don't want to smudge anything, so I'm going to start over here and work my way down across this way, making sure all of the skull on this side is dry. It only takes a few seconds to dry, so it should be alright. Prime your pen, get yourself ready, and let's go with a big outline across here. Remembering, go around the shadow, around the drip. Let's just finish it off just there so that we can stop. Let's go around that line one more time. As you come down to this drip, just go a little bit thicker around the bottom of the drip there, look. You see how going around the bottom of the drip with a little bit of a thicker line just makes it look like that drip's poking out a little bit more. Okay, we'll come back down to the bottom drips in a minute. Let's go and work on the top drips because I don't want to smudge anything. Let's get into this eye first. Now, as we do the drip on the eye, we're not just going to outline that as it is. What we'll do is we'll start up here, look, then outline, and then end up over there. Just so it looks like that drip is starting up a little bit higher than the edge of the eyeball, because look, as we now go around the eye, just to me looks like that drip is in a much more interesting place. You could just do it right on the actual edge of the eye, but these little overlaps are what I think kind of makes your artwork stand out a little bit more. And so anytime you do those drips, we can use those little overlaps. We're going to do it with some of these down here as well. This one's on the edge, that's fine, but some of the others will bring them in, add little overlaps like that. And also with these, if you're struggling to flick off, don't forget we can just grab the yellow pen, just a couple of coats of yellow on those black lines just there, will taper those out nicely. Okay, let's go around this bit now, shall we? Let's put in we're going to put in a drip. See this drip here, there's going to be a bit of an overlap, so watch this. There's our drip. Everything else, we just follow it around till you get to the top there. When you're double lining, don't forget with your double lining to make the bottom of each drip a little bit thicker there, look. If you want to see somebody who does drips really well, go and check out Buff Monster. Buff Monster draws ice cream for a living, and the drips that they do are just sublime. So yeah, always have a little look at Buff Monster if you want to get some techniques nailed for how to draw drips. There we go. That's not looking too bad at all. Okay, let's bring that down. And let's start going around these other drips underneath before we put a mouth in. So remember what I was saying about these kind of overlapping drips? Let's go and do that. Let's put one here. So we can just put the drip in and then just make everything else kind of sit behind it. See what a difference it makes? So we've got this drip coming from a little bit closer to the inside of the face. This one's right on the edge. Let's do these other drips. Just outline them once. Outline them again, but with a bit more strategic outlining, so you're going a bit thicker on the tip of the drip. And also this part, look, up here, look, tip of the drip and the bit across the top of the drip as well. It's generally where you want to be, a little bit thicker. Awesome, we're looking good here. Let's go and put in some, we're going to put in the rest of the mouth, so we know where that black line is, because then we're going to add some other little highlights and drips and things like that in all the gaps that are remaining. Okay, always important to get the important stuff in. It's important to get the important stuff in. There's a good saying. And then see what gaps you've got left to see where you need to put other stuff in. Okay, so here we go. Let's go and put that mouth in. So I think the mouth is going to go from about here to about there. Curve it around, make it look a little bit more natural. How's that looking? Do you want to put a little umbrella across the end of the mouth? Look, sometimes that looks pretty neat. That's pretty much looking like that's as close to an emoji as we need to get. And then, like I say, what we can do now is we can just go in and with that black pen add in a few more drips. So for example, let's go and put one in here. Go over it twice. Remember, that's a double-ended flick off. Double line it, nice and wonky down there. Flicked off around the top. What about a little drip in there? Put in as many or as few as you want. It's totally up to you on what we do. The main thing I'd say is just leave this area where we're going to put a big old highlight inside of the eye. Big old highlight in there as well. Okay. Okay, you ready then? Let's go and put some highlights in on this yellow side. So main area right across the edge there, but also going to put in, I'm going to put in a little highlight around the eye there as well. Light's coming in from this direction, it's just going to bounce off the inside of the eye just there. And then a few little highlights, white highlights in the yellow area, yellow highlights in the ochre area. Okay, hope that makes sense. So let's go and do this bit first. Let's go and put a big old line across the top there, look. Big line across the top. Let's put a line across the inside of the eye here. Don't worry, it's looking a little bit cumbersome at the moment. We're going to taper quite a lot of that out, so don't worry if it looks a bit fat. Let's go and whack in some little lines here. This is where we'd expect to see a little bit of light shining off. Maybe even a little tiny bit in there, look. Getting down into these drips down at the bottom. This is where you want to move to your yellow pen. We're going to do the same kind of thing just over on this side. Look, just whack in a little bit of yellow. We can taper it out with the ochre later. We're going to taper out quite a lot of this. That'll do nicely. I just missed that eye in there, the drip in the eye there. A little bit of white. Whilst I've got the yellow in my hand, I'm just going to quickly go over some of these bits again where they're not particularly opaque. Don't overdo it, you know, just give it one coat, move on. Don't try and get it right first time. Give it one coat, move on. It's very tempting, it's very easy to just keep on going. That's the worst thing you can do. The more you keep on going with that pen, the more you're going to dilute the colour that's underneath. It's all going to get a little bit messy. So yeah, just nice little touches is all you need. Okay, we're pretty much on the home straight with this. Let's go and have a little bit more fun with it. Let's go back over onto the right hand side, on our skull side. A couple of things we're going to do. I'm going to put some little spots in here, then I'm going to grab the black pen, put some little drips on this side as well. So here we go, some little spots. Let's put one there, a half one. Just gives that a little bit more just a little bit more kind of texture, something a bit more interesting going on in there. You could even add a little bit of a grey shadow around the edge of the drips if you wanted, around the nose, stuff like that. I'm not gonna bother. I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna go in with a black though. That's an intersection in there, so I'm just gonna make that a little bit thicker because I forgot to do that earlier. And then add a few little drips down here. Let's go and put a drip on the tooth. Put a big one in there, and definitely two on the cheekbone. Look, small one, big one. Nice. Let's put this one here. Let's have that one dripping down like that. That's pretty cool. A little bit in there maybe. And of course, when you're doing drips, they don't always have to be going down. What really makes a piece of artwork look weird is having drips going in all different directions. So have some going up, or just have drips going up. Just adds a whole new dimension to your artwork. Likewise, drips going out from the centre makes your whole character look like it's exploding a little bit. So yeah, be a bit more experimental with your drips. You don't have to just go for the standard ones. There we go, a couple of little black spots in there. Well, let's put a little crack in. Anytime I do a crack, it's just a capital Y. Then on the tip of one of those ends, another capital Y. Here's a neat little trick as well. You see how that doesn't particularly look like a crack in the end because the outside line is pretty smooth, pretty consistent. But one of the things you can do is you can, and this is why I double line everything quite a lot, is we can change that to make it look more like a crack by just thickening out the outside of the line. So watch this, look. If we just take that, go up to there, look, and then this side. You see how we just thickened out that outside line, but what it actually does, by leaving that bit in the middle, just makes it look more like there's a crack in that skull there now. Again, that's the beauty of double lining, is you can get away with stuff like that. Right, where were we? Let's get back into this side. We're going to go and tidy up some of these lines now. So go and grab that yellow. Make sure everything's dry before you go putting your big hands all over the place. And what we're going to do, those yellow lines, we're going to start tapering some of those white lines. We're going to taper them out with the yellow pen. Okay, so right down the edge there, what I like to do is just take out a little bit so it's a nice thin slither of a line across the top as well. Let's give that another coat. It'll take a couple of coats to get rid of these black and grey lines, but just be patient with it. But look at that white line there, that's looking really nice now. See what a lovely shape we've got onto that. Let's go and do that with all the other drips. Let's just try and taper them all out like that. Just taking out a little bit out of the top. Keep it fat at the bottom. Just so you're getting a little shadow around there. Around the eye socket, we're going to taper that out as well. Let's do this. So from here, look. see what I mean? Look, so we're just taking out quite a big chunk of that white line that we put in. Just gives that eye socket just like a little bit of a ridge going on there. Awesome. That one there, look, we see I went over the black line with the white bit, so I'm just going to quickly bring that back. This is all we're doing at this stage. We're just tidying bits up like that. If you want to taper off any of these black lines, now's the time to do it, because the yellow being fairly transparent, you will need a couple of lines in there, or a couple of coats. Awesome. Go grab that ochre. Let's do the same down these drips at the bottom. So you want these drips to be tapered at the top, fat at the bottom. Just a little tickle of a line in there. Nice. You want to bring some of these drips out a little bit further. What we could do, let's try this. A little shadow around there. Maybe a little shadow there as well. Let's see what it looks like. Put a shadow all the way down there as well. Just trying to figure out where these shadows will live. Look, knowing that we can taper them all out, let's put one over on this side. Just whacking these big shadows in. Look at this eye. Same way as we did with the white bit. Let's go and do the same with this ochre. So you can see on that bit there, look, where I've done that bit there, it's going into the black and into the yellow, so I will need to use the black and the yellow to kind of taper that line out, but that's okay. That kind of works. Let's do this one. Let's be brave. All the way across there. Look at that. Awesome stuff. Right, while we're waiting for that to dry, let's go and put in some little spots here and there. Again, just to give it a little bit of texture. And we're just kind of killing time as well. You're always kind of killing time as you go backwards and forwards with Posca pens, because you want to give them as much time to dry as possible, but without, you know, spending like hours and hours drawing it. You know, you want to get finished relatively quickly. But you know, maybe that's your thing. Maybe you like spending hours drawing. That's fine if you do. But I like to start and finish relatively quickly in these sessions. Okay, once it's dry, let's go, and you're going to go back in with your black pen and your yellow pen just to tidy up some of these shadows that we put in. So for example, around here where the shadow has gone into the ochre, has gone into the black, let's go and bring that back. Bring these black lines back to the front. Just there, maybe. Definitely around there. Into the eye, that side's not too bad, although this line needs bringing back. So yeah, just wander around just tidying bits up. So I've tidied up the black lines, grab your yellow, let's tidy up the yellow lines as well. Let's start at the top here, let's just cutting that in, give it another little coat. This bit here, cut in. Around here, look, just cut these lines in so they become tapered at the end. Just go past every single ochre line that you've done to create a shadow. Just give it one coat over. Try not to be tempted to go and give it 2 or 3 coats in one go, because the more coats you give it, the more chance you've got of diluting the colour underneath, and that's the last thing we need. Just mist. I've seen a bit of mist in black there. Let's bring that back. Bring that black line back to the front. Let's keep on going with tapering. Another one. one there. Look, well, I've not brought the black line back to the front. Let's do that there. Awesome. This is looking pretty good. Let's have a little zoom out, see how it looks. That's quite a nice looking little piece. Again, you know, go crazy on extra drips and things like that. It's always easy to put extra drips in. I'll tell you what we can do. Let's play around with this. Look, we've got a few minutes spare. What are we doing for time? We're 40 minutes in, so we've got loads of time. Grab that ochre. Let's go and whack a drip in. Look. Let's go and whack a drip. Just there. I'm going to use ochre because it's behind. It's going to be behind the skull. You see how we're just adding that drip. It's gone over the black lines a little bit. Don't panic about that. We'll bring the black lines back when it's dry and when we outline it. Whilst we're waiting for that to dry, I think it will look really cool if we put some black drips over here. So you know how this drip looks like it's around the front. That's great. We're going to put some drips that look like around the back. So look at that little drip coming off from around the back there. I think that works. Wait for this bit to dry. I think it's just about dry enough. So let's first of all bring some of these black lines back to the front, tidying all of that up, and then we're going to outline the drip. Remembering that double lining technique for outlining the drip, the bottom part needs to be thicker. Outline the little blob as well there. I think that kind of works. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, these two drips are the same size. I don't like that. So I'm just going to extend that one a little bit, just to keep it all nice and uneven. What about this one as well? Let's bring that one a little bit bigger. Yeah, that looks better. So you see what I mean? You can just kind of keep playing around with these. You can, you know, put some drips coming out of the eyeball or the eye socket, that kind of stuff. Have loads of fun with it. Okay, I think we're done. Let's go and whack in a couple of bits and bobs around the outside. This is so what you'll have noticed here. Look how far over to the left-hand side my picture is on that sketchbook. I wouldn't be too stressed about that, because what you can do is you can just do something like this. You can put in a frame. Little wonky little frame like that. Just double line it, make it wonky. Ooh, what a noise. And I think that kind of works. You see how just by putting that frame on in the background, it just centers the whole piece into your sketchbook. You could, if you wanted to, just put some, in fact, this is what I'll do. I'll just use this framed area as an area where I can put some extra spots in. Yeah, see what I mean? Just a nice easy hack for centering your picture a little bit more. So if you don't get it in the right place, you can do that. The only thing to be careful of is when you're doing that, I wouldn't want, you see that line there, put it up quite high, because I wouldn't want it going through all of these drips. It's all going to be a little bit confusing. If it was going straight into the teeth as well, it will be a little bit confusing, whereas that's a nice place for it to join. We call that a dewlap, because it's a straight line going all the way across, so it's a nice clean incision there. And what that means is that this background square just doesn't look like it's linked to the skull anyway. If you had that line going into the teeth there, it would start to look like it's in line with the teeth, and therefore it's an extension of the teeth, which is the worst thing we could possibly do. Not the worst thing, but you know, that's not really what we want in it. Okay, let's wrap this up, shall we? I'm just going to whack in some little yellow spots around there. Again, I'm just putting that in just to fill this page nicely. Let's put some ochre ones as well. Ooh. Yeah, that'll do. Awesome. Pretty happy with how that one's turned out. Just what, 2 colours, 2 yellows, no, 3 colours, 2 yellows and a grey, and a black pen is all you need. A little white pen as well. I don't count black and white as colours, but yeah, have a little go at that, see how you get on, and yeah, if you're confident enough, share the photo on my Discord or on the Facebook page. There's a Korp Academy group on Facebook. Thanks very much for taking part. I'll see you in the next video.